Time now for the Terry Bradshaw Show. And here's Terry in the news once again, TB. You rocked him once again.
Thank you so much for calling. Terry Bradshaw is unable to be with us. He has been kidnapped by the Mike Tomlin crew, and we cannot find him. Thank you very much.
Oh, my man, TB.
Hello. What you say, Boo?
How you doing, man? How you doing? Happy New Year and all that stuff. Hey, let me get right to this because there's so much we got to get in a short time. And you've been all over the news. You blew up Twitter, Facebook. You were number one a couple of days ago trending on Facebook.
There you go.
I'm sure you don't know what that is, but it's good. And let me just frame this thing right by saying you were on a show, Speak for Yourself, with Jason Whitlock and Chris Carter, some guys, and you were covering a lot of topics, okay? Stop me if I'm wrong. And you were asked about Mike Tomlin. In fact, I think it was Chris Carter who asked the question, and here's what you were quoted as saying. I don't think he's a great coach at all. He's a nice coach. He's a real great cheerleader guy. I don't know what he does, but I don't think he's a great coach at all. His name never even pops in my mind when we think about great coaches in the NFL. And there it went. And from there, it took off. What were you thinking? What was your frame of reference? And tell me about that comment.
Well, I wasn't thinking anything. The question came out of nowhere. I went over to do that Fox Sports 1 show. I was asked to do it 3 times a year. All of us were asked to be the guest over there. The only show we don't do is the Baylor show because of his criticism of Troy Aikman. So we just boycott him. And we told Fox we're not doing his show in respect for Troy. So none of us will do his show. But we do Colin Cowherd's show. Love doing that show. That's a fun show to do. And then the big guy, I can't think of his name, Jason Whitlock. Mm-hmm. Really an interesting guy. And so you do those shows back to back, and you spend half a day there, and it's enjoyable. And if it helps their show get viewers or listeners or whatever, then we're glad to do it. And all it was a question to me. It wasn't a question. They said, "Look, Terry, today we're going to ask you about Mike Tomlin." So my response was a natural response. It was not planned, so therefore it was real. And you just quoted me.
Yes.
I don't think of him. I don't think of him at all when I think of great coaches. And I really don't know what he does. He was a defensive back coach at Tampa and a coordinator in Minnesota. Then he became the head coach of the Steelers. So I don't know what he brings. I don't know if he's sits in all the defensive meetings or, I don't know what
Mm-hmm.
And then something came to my mind really quick was that several times on the sideline, he's, kind of gyrating around and
very animated
stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I just said, looks like he's a cheerleader. No disrespect intended. Nothing wrong being a great coach or a good coach or an outstanding coach and being a cheerleader. That's his personality. So I can give it a thought.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people did, including Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, I know.
Before we get to that, though, TV, let me just clear up a couple things before we get to Tomlin's response, because I don't think you've really commented on this before, and that is, number one, the word great. I mean, a lot of people use that word a lot, and you seem to think that there were other great coaches. You even were asked about other coaches, other Steeler coaches like Bill Cowher.
Right.
And you said, well, gee, I kind of think maybe he is. So I think you say he's a difference maker. Explain.
Right. Explain. Well, I thought that the Steelers were going on the downward trend before Cowher were hot. Chuck steps aside. Chuck was a great coach, and Chuck built the Steeler organization into a winning organization. So that's a difference maker. Don Shula, a difference maker. Tom Landry, a trendsetter, difference maker. Those are great coaches. Bill Belichick in New England is the only great coach in the NFL today. Now, there are other coaches that have had great years. I think Andy Reid, in my opinion, is a great football coach. is that he takes programs and turns them around. We did it in Philly, then that fell sound, then he does in Kansas City. But it's an up and down thing. Whereas Belichick is consistent year in and year out. Shula, year in, year out. Landry, year in and year out. So that's great. Outstanding would be a notch below that. And I think that's where you can put Tomlin and, a few more. McCaffrey, I always get McCaffrey's name wrong in Green Bay. Mike is really a good coach, outstanding coach in Green Bay. I think McCarthy, that's it, McCarthy. Sean Payton, I want to say, is an outstanding football coach, but he is a great offensive coordinator, and he is a good football coach because he is yet to fix that defense, and he is wasting that quarterback. So I'm not going to put him in that category, and you can just go down the line from there. When I got to Tomlin, he's a good football coach, maybe an outstanding football coach, but I have not ever given him a thought, okay? I don't think about him. It's not intentional. It's just that he's kind of overlooked, and maybe that's my fault because I'm such I'm more of a quarterback guy. I look at the quarterbacks and the offenses, and I just don't give coaches a lot of thought. So that's how all that is just a great coach. It's overstated.
All right,
great.
I hear you, and I do think if you want to go back, you might throw in guys like Lombardi and Paul Brown and whatever. But you're talking about
buddy,
guys.
I'm sitting here doing a 3-minute talk show, and I don't have time to sit.
No,
here.
I understand.
I don't know where we're going, and so I don't have time to sit down and write and research great coaches.
That's what you paid me
off
for.
The top of my head.
Yeah, no, that's a good list.
All right,
I'm not knocking the list. I'm just saying, referencing people. If you look them up, you see these names, you see others. It's difficult, by the way, to classify what great means. Okay, that we've established.
Well,
but you got your list, and that's a good list. So
that which is consistent.
Okay.
They do things consistently, what others do occasionally.
All right.
Mike Reed, occasional. That's where the occasional comes in. They do it 1 year and 2 years and 3 years, and then it falls off. Okay, that's occasional.
Mm-hmm.
And the great ones do things consistently, year in and year out. And there's only one guy you can talk about in great, and that's Bill Belichick. That's it. He's the only one.
Yeah.
Now there's outstanding, and then there's good, and so on and so forth. I mean, who cares? I don't care. If things happen and we do this radio show 3 or 4 days later, when this stuff is dead, and it's kind of like me sitting here talking to you. And well, Terry, let's talk about when they called you stupid. Well, okay, let's just talk about that. I mean, come on.
Terry, the point here is this is the.
What do you want?
What I want from you is I want to clarify and classify the comments by saying, for those who say, Terry, all right, here's Mike Tomlin's position. He got to 100 games faster than any Steeler coach. He won a Super Bowl, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That doesn't change your mind.
Right.
I understand. So that's where they're coming from.
Did he? All right, wait a minute. Did he build the team? Did he build that team?
No, he did. He inherited a pretty good team.
Fine, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
I got you.
And so he got to 100 games. Good for him.
All right,
listen, buddy, I don't care what he did.
All right.
The more I talk about this guy, the less I like him. I don't care.
I don't need to get you mad, but I want to get
Well,
this.
it's just like, I don't care. No, you don't understand. I don't care. Talking about him is of no interest to me.
Right.
Talking about Bill Belichick is of no interest to me. I run a horse operation, a cattle operation. My children are here. I got a dog that's sick. I got goats out here I got to feed. Those things are of interest to me.
Okay.
My faith is of interest to me. The rest of this stuff doesn't rate on my radar here. Just
all right. So that answers the next
things,
question.
I move on. All right.
Yeah. Can I get one more thing in, just for the fans out there listening, and then we'll move on, which is the comment by Tomlin. Tomlin's comment. What do I know? I grew up in Dallas, a fan, particularly of Hollywood Henderson fan. Now, that was a little shot there that a lot of people were surprised about, including Jason, Whitlock, who hosts the show the next day, said he was surprised to see that Tomlin went there. Your thoughts about that?
Yeah, exactly. Mike let me get under his skin. And he responded with I'm a Cowboy fan. And I'm a
Hollywood
who do you say?
Hollywood Henderson. You remember that name?
Now, what was Mike referencing? Let's just think about this for a second. Who said I couldn't spell cat if he spotted me the C and the T?
That would be Thomas Henderson.
Hollywood Henderson. Mm-hmm. So that's a reference to my brain.
There you go.
My smarts. And so that's his way of saying Terry's stupid. That's just and then Hollywood peed on some people, and Hollywood did drugs, and Hollywood went to prison, and that's his hero. And the Dallas Cowboys, and who was the Steelers' arch rival in Super Bowl? It's the Dallas Cowboys. And I would tell Mike, we whip that ass every time. Thank you very much. There's your reaction. There's your response. He should have never said a word. Here's what he should have said. Here's what we all should say when we're highly criticized, or we feel like we have been. Number one, no comment always works. No comment. Number two, Mike Tomlin's an outstanding coach, and I wish he and the Steelers the very best. I'm a Steeler. I'm pulling for him throughout the playoffs. I hope I see him in Houston, and I can present them with the 51st Vince Lombardi Trophy as the most outstanding football team in the world champ. That would be my reaction to Mike Tomlin. I wouldn't touch it. Let it die. He stirs it up. I'm not going to respond. I don't blame him. Fire away. That's the way he wanted to do it. So he did it. And now people say, really, Mike, you really want to go there? So now you just let people know they got to you. And you just don't do that, You just don't do it. But in his defense, I would say, touche.